Your boy Red Beezy, man, 2 cups shouter, nigga. Tattoos and long hair, you know what I'm talking about? Real goddamn boss nigga swag. You mean?
Check your notes.
Fred, 25 years of doing this, I have never, ever seen a murder defendant's mother berate her daughter in court like I just witnessed. And I've never seen that defendant, Sierra Harp, respond to her mother the way she did. This is video.
This is Raheem Grant, a 28-year-old Atlanta rapper known as Red Beezy, a devoted father to his 3-year-old daughter Angel, and a rising star who had just secured a major record deal and was planning an extensive tour. But on December 29, 2017, Raheem would be found face down in his own apartment, struck down by someone he once loved. The police arrived to discover a scene that appeared to tell one story, but hidden inside Raheem's cell phone was a completely different truth. A recording so shocking that it would expose exactly what happened in those final moments. But before we uncover the haunting footage that Raheem unknowingly captured, let me take you back to 1989, where this story began. Raheem Malik Grant was born on March 30th, 1989, in Fayetteville, Georgia, to Geraldine Grant Bryson and Anthony Bryson. From the moment he could walk, music flowed through his veins. At just 3.5 years old, Raheem was already behind a drum set, creating rhythms that belied his tender age. By 7 years old, he had earned a spot on the legendary stage of Showtime at the Apollo, performing before thousands and showcasing skills that musicians twice his age struggled to master. It was clear from these earliest moments that Raheem Grant was destined for greatness. Music wasn't just something he did, but something he was. As Raheem matured, his musical focus evolved, transitioning from drums to hip-hop, a genre that allowed him to tell stories and share his experiences about life in Atlanta's urban landscape.
Okay, man, so basically what we got going on right now for 2015, the new campaign, new project that I'm working on, Red Beezy, DTP, MOB, D4L, Shout It Low, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace and shout out to my nigga Dope B, you know what I'm saying? But this that new shit, paid the plug, you feel me? About to take over the streets, man. Y'all get ready for it. Real mob life boss shit, you already.
By his 20s, Raheem had established himself in Atlanta's vibrant hip-hop community, not just as a rapper, performing under the stage name Red Beezy, but also as a skilled producer and recording engineer. He had taught himself the technical skills necessary to craft professional quality music, which meant he could work independently and collaborate with other artists from a position of knowledge.
What is it that you want to accomplish this year?
Get money. You already know it, man. I'm trying to get the richest I've never been in my life. You know what I'm saying? Right now, if you can see, man, your boy iced out, man. I probably got over 75 bands worth of jewelry on me right now, but that's a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying, man, you know, I get money out here in the streets, but I'm trying to really get the most money I done ever made in my life, nigga. I'm really trying to be up there with these Bill Gates, you know what I'm saying, on some boss shit, man. Yeah.
His lyrics frequently explored the dangerous realities of street life, the constant threats that came with living in certain neighborhoods, the choices between survival and destruction that many young black men faced daily.
With my shit, 20 chains on my neck, feel like a slave in it, bitch. Beat a nigga, Johnny Cage in it, bitch. Gotta cut my grass, I know nigga snakes in it, bitch. Take a look, that 20K on my rig. We loud it for like it's a parade in it, bitch. Stay sharp and fuck like a blade in it, bitch.
It's deeply ironic that while Raheem spent so much artistic energy warning about dangers in the streets, his life would ultimately end not from street violence, but from something far more personal, a conflict within his own home, perpetrated by someone he had once loved. In 2013, Raheem's personal and professional worlds collided when he met Sierra Harp, a young woman who approached him as a fan, seeking an autograph and expressing interest in working with him. Raheem hired Sierra to help promote his shows. What began as a professional arrangement quickly transformed into something more, evolving from colleague to romantic partner. Their relationship produced a daughter, Angel, born in November 2014, and by all accounts, the birth of his child fundamentally transformed Raheem. His mother, Geraldine, would later speak about this transformation in interviews, describing how his entire world shifted the moment he held his baby girl. He became devoted to Angel in a way that superseded his music and career. She became his priority, his purpose, the reason he worked so hard to succeed. But while fatherhood brought out the best in Raheem, his relationship with Sierra grew increasingly strained and volatile. After their romance ended, Raheem maintained contact with Sierra primarily for Angel's sake, understanding that co-parenting required communication. However, according to family members, Sierra's behavior became increasingly erratic, characterized by jealous rages whenever Raheem spoke to other women, an obsessive fixation on his activities, and an inability to accept that their relationship had ended. Geraldine Grant, concerned about escalating tensions, gave Raheem advice that would prove absolutely crucial. She told him to start recording any altercations with Sierra, to document their disputes, to create a record that could protect him. It was prescient counsel, and Raheem took his advice seriously. By December 2017, Sierra had been evicted, and despite the problems in their relationship, Raheem allowed her to stay temporarily at his apartment, a decision made perhaps out of compassion, because she was Angel's mother. This act of kindness would cost him everything. On December 29, 2017, at approximately 10:50 in the evening, a neighbor in Clayton County, Georgia heard frantic pounding on their door. When they opened it, they found Sierra bleeding from what appeared to be multiple stab wounds, hysterical and panicked, clutching 3-year-old Angel. Sierra was barely coherent, her blood alcohol level later testing at 3 times the legal limit. She was profoundly intoxicated. Through her tears and slurred speech, Sierra told the neighbor and arriving police officers that Raheem had attacked her, that he had stopped her repeatedly in a violent rage, that she had been forced to defend herself. She painted herself as a victim, a woman fighting for her life against an abusive partner. Initially, when police entered Raheem's apartment and found him face down, clearly deceased, with 7 gunshot wounds, 2 in his back, 2 in one arm, 2 in his other arm, and 1 to his head, and saw Sierra's extensive injuries, they began leaning towards her self-defense claim. The crime scene appeared to support Sierra's version. There was a bloodied push knife, Sierra had obvious stab wounds, and Raheem was dead from gunshot wounds. It seemed like a tragic case of domestic violence where a woman had used lethal force to protect herself. The police collected evidence, including the pistol Sierra had brought to the neighbor's apartment, and began investigating with the theory that this might be justified self-defense. However, the autopsy revealed inconsistencies that didn't align with Sierra's narrative. The positioning and nature of his wounds suggested he had been incapacitated when the final shot was delivered to his head. The forensic evidence raised questions about whether this was truly self-defense or something more calculated. But the real turning point came when investigators accessed Raheem's cell phone. Following his mother's advice to document disputes, Raheem had been recording, and what they found was stunning. 4 separate videos that captured over approximately 13 minutes the actual shooting and its aftermath. The first video, recorded by Raheem himself, showed him already wounded, blood visible on his body, his voice strained but clear as he stated words that would echo through the courtroom. "Y'all see this? This what this bitch did to me." He was creating a record, documenting his injuries, naming his attacker. And then, captured on that same recording, the sound of gunshots rang out, the moment when Sierra fired additional rounds into his already wounded body. But the subsequent 3 videos, inexplicably recorded by Sierra herself over the following 13 minutes, revealed the true horror. These videos captured Sierra standing over Raheem, who was clearly gravely wounded, yelling at him, berating him, showing no ounce of fear or desperation that would characterize someone who had just fought off a violent attack. The footage showed Raheem, in his final moments, making heartbreaking pleas. He begged for water, and most devastating of all, he asked to hold his daughter Angel one last time before he died. Sierra's response was chilling. She told him he could crawl to his daughter Angel if he wanted to see her. She showed no mercy, no compassion. And then, as the videos continued, she fired more shots into his body. Most revealing, the videos also showed Sierra with no stab wounds at the time these recordings began. The injuries she had shown to the neighbor and police were not present when she was shooting Raheem. The evidence strongly suggested that Sierra had inflicted these injuries on herself after the shooting, staging the scene to make it appear she had been the victim. When questioned by police, Sierra maintained that Rahim had been abusive throughout their relationship, that she had endured years of torment, and that the shooting was the culmination of a long pattern of violence. But when investigators pressed her, she couldn't provide coherent answers. She couldn't explain the shot to Rahim's head when he was clearly already incapacitated. She couldn't explain the inconsistencies between her story and the physical evidence. And she certainly couldn't explain away the videos that showed her own actions in those 13 minutes. The videos also revealed another heartbreaking detail. This entire violent incident occurred while 3-year-old Angel was present in the apartment. This tiny child witnessed her mother repeatedly shooting her father, heard his cries for help and his desperate pleas to hold her one last time, and absorbed trauma that no amount of therapy could ever fully heal. The evidence was overwhelming and painted a picture completely at odds with Sierra's claims. Sierra Harp was arrested in February 2018 once investigators had fully analyzed all the evidence, particularly those damning cell phone videos. She was charged with malice murder, indicating that prosecutors believed she had killed Rahim with deliberate intent and without justification. The trial of Sierra Harp commenced in May 2019, nearly a year and a half after Rahim's life had been brutally cut short. The courtroom proceedings would prove to be emotionally wrenching and devastating for the Grant family, who came seeking justice while grappling with the knowledge that the mother of his child was the one who had taken his life. The prosecution's case rested heavily on that 13-minute cell phone footage, the undeniable evidence that completely contradicted Sierra's self-defense narrative. Prosecutors argued that this was not a woman fighting desperately for her survival, but rather a person motivated by jealousy and rage at being rejected, that Sierra couldn't accept that Rahim had moved on. The videos were played for the jury, forcing them to hear Rahim's final pleas and witness Sierra's callous responses. Sierra's defense team faced an uphill battle given the overwhelming video evidence, but they attempted to paint a picture of a woman who had suffered years of abuse, who had been pushed to her breaking point, who had acted in intoxicated desperation rather than calculated malice.
I do not care if I go to jail for the rest of my life.
They brought forward testimony about Sierra's difficult childhood, marked by what her uncle Ted Thurmond described as physical, mental, and emotional abuse, arguing that this early trauma had shaped her psychological responses.
To train up a child in the way that he should go, and as he gets older, he would never depart from it. That's not what happened here in this childhood.
They also highlighted her severe intoxication, suggesting that her blood alcohol level had impaired her judgment and her ability to form the specific intent required for a malice murder conviction. However, the prosecution countered that her intoxication suggested premeditation. She had been drinking heavily before confronting Rahim, possibly to build courage, and her actions showed enough coherence to undermine claims that she was too impaired. After hearing all the evidence, including the devastating cell phone footage, witness testimony, forensic analysis, and arguments from both sides, the jury deliberated and returned with a verdict: guilty of malice murder and aggravated assault. The conviction indicated that the jury had rejected the self-defense claim entirely. The sentencing hearing in June 2019 proved to be one of the most emotionally charged moments. Multiple people spoke either in support of leniency or in favor of maximum punishment, revealing deep divisions even within the families involved. Most shockingly, Sierra's own mother took the stand not to plead for mercy, but to urge the judge to impose the maximum possible sentence and to sterilize her.
Rahim Grant, Harp says that Grant beat her and that's why she shot him. Her mother tells a very different story though.
I know for a fact these plans did not include you. Envious nature took control and you murdered Rahim for moving on without you.
Harp could get life without parole. The judge delayed sentencing until later this month because one of Harp's attorneys left the case.
This extraordinary testimony from a mother essentially disowning her daughter shocked the courtroom. She spoke about the murder having occurred in front of Angel, emphasizing the trauma inflicted on this innocent child, and expressed that the family had repeatedly tried to help Sierra make better choices, but she had consistently chosen destructive paths. In contrast, other family members and friends did speak in her defense, pleading for leniency.
In court today, Harp's uncle took the stand to ask the judge for leniency. He said Sierra Harp was sexually abused as a child, and that impacted her for the rest of her life.
It's written somewhere to train up a child in the way that he shall go, and as he gets older, he would never depart from it. That's not what happened here in this childhood.
Other friends of Harp took the stand to testify that she was a good mother, but Harp's own mother said the family tried to help her many times, yet she continued to make bad choices.
Her uncle Ted testified about early sexual assault that Sierra had suffered, trauma that had never been properly addressed and had impacted her psychological development. Friends testified that despite her flaws, Sierra had been a good mother to Angel, and they asked the judge to consider that Angel had already lost her father and would be further traumatized by losing her mother to an excessive prison sentence. Sierra herself addressed the court, expressing remorse while still maintaining that she had been in an abusive relationship and that her heavy intoxication had impaired her judgment. She acknowledged the pain she had caused to Raheem's family and to Angel. After hearing from all parties, the judge handed down a sentence of 125 years in prison, an effective life sentence that ensured Sierra Harp would spend the rest of her life behind bars. For Raheem's family, particularly his mother Geraldine, who was raising Angel, the sentence brought some measure of justice. The criminal proceedings had concluded, and it seemed the chapter could finally be closed. But then in February 2025, something extraordinary happened. Raheem Grant's own sister, Lavoya Williams, testified in court in support of a motion for a new trial for Sierra Harp, the woman convicted of murdering her brother. Lavoya's testimony represented a complete break with the family's unified stance, creating a schism within the Grant family. In her testimony, Lavoya claimed that Raheem had indeed been mentally abusive towards Sierra, that there was truth to Sierra's claims about toxic dynamics, and that this aspect had not been adequately explored during the original trial. She also argued that Sierra had received ineffective assistance from her defense counsel, that her attorneys had failed to properly investigate and present evidence about the abuse. This testimony created deep divisions within the Grant family, particularly between Lavoya and her mother Geraldine, who vehemently denied that her son had been abusive and felt betrayed. Geraldine maintained that Raheem had been a loving, non-violent man, that Sierra's claims were fabrications, and that her son deserved to be remembered truthfully. The motion for a new trial remains pending, with the judge yet to make a decision about whether the issues raised warrant overturning the conviction. The case that seemed definitively closed in 2019 has been reopened, forcing everyone involved to relive the trauma and confront difficult questions about truth, justice, abuse, and accountability. What do you think about this new development? Do you think Sierra's actions were justified? Because what remains undisputed is that a little girl lost her father in the most traumatic way imaginable, and her mother is now locked up forever. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.